about so young I can't remember how old I was. And I certainly didn't know how to do PowerPoint then, and you know what? I still don't. So our garden in Florida was about 5 acres. And if we had lined those 5 acres out up here in a fashion that you would need to be able to know what you were doing, they probably would have covered 30 acres. So the work is, what did you want? So, what?
You got it.
Yes, I've got a carpet. Mort's got to go. I think I've got the car key. No, it's in the room. It's in the room. Okay. So this program is the beginning of my second final farewell tour on the database. And I hope that I'll have it organized by the time I get to the last one. So what I wanted to show were images of the people and the flowers that have been meaningful in my daily escapades. And the one on the left is one of Mort's oldest, the Stout Medal winner. And on the right is a brand new one last year, Aveline of mine. I'm going to go somewhere where I can see these things. That light is killing you. No, thank you. So Annalisa was just one of the loves of my life. She had the flat below Mort and me when we lived in San Francisco, and every Saturday she'd be out there doing her laundry and singing opera. You could hear her halfway down to Will Chamberlain's house, who lived about 2 blocks away. Oops. Barbara Dittmer was one of the big movers and shakers in the Pittsburgh Iris and Daily Society. A lot of people know her. Her namesake was a small flower, and I think it might have even won the Annie T. Giles Award. Oh, this is a more recent one of mine, Barbara Mandrell. She chose it from a photograph, and it, I think, actually is showing up in some of the favorable popularity poll voting here in Region 10. Barbara Watts is a former AHS board member, chair lady of the Publications Committee, and that is her namesake, and you can see it. The hotter it is, the more orange it becomes. The cooler weather up in the upper right-hand corner. It's amazing. Usually the reverse is what you'll see. Just an old one of Mort's that I still love. We still actually might even grow it. Yes. Now, when we were in San Francisco and I unfurled my Berry Goldwater banner out over the balcony, people just would walk the other way when they saw me come into the bus stop. Oh shoot, I didn't get this one on there too well, but those are 3 ex-AHS presidents plus one of my mentors. The lady on the left was the legendary Bertie Ferris, and the big man is Jim Cooper. He visited and stayed with us that very weekend when they were touring, and he got on the bed in the guest bedroom, and all of a sudden it didn't have any support underneath the frame, and it went flat on the floor. And the lady on the right, very gracious, dear lady, Betty Barnes, and Bill Munson named, I think she had several daylilies named after her. Natchez, Mississippi, Rondon. My mother greatly appreciated Betty Ford's announcement that she had breast cancer. It was concurrent with my mother's, and Betty Ford encouraged women to reach for recovery, and so Mort and I were traveling from Denver down to where's that awful? Colorado Springs with Betty Ford's niece, and her name came up, and that's how we came to have this lady approve or select from a photograph that particular daylily to bear her name. And it has gone on to win a number of awards, including Daylily of the Year by Hemera Europa. My first stout medal was shown in Valdosta many years ago. I guess it won Best Seedling in the show. One of the most popular women in daylilies at the time was a lady named Betty Woods, who she lived in Georgia and did some hybridizing, but she traveled the daylily judging circuit and would start the year off judging shows in Florida and work her way all the way up into New England. So she was well known and loved, and she judged that seedling in the show. It went on to win Best Seedling in the show, and when she came out to where we were all waiting on bated breath, she explained, "Wow, you have this wonderful seedling in there." So subsequently I asked her if she'd like to have it named after her, and she said yes, she would, and it went on to win the Stout Medal. These are a couple of more. It's Beyond the Sky. I love the lavender color. It's one of the better lavenders out there that I've seen. And Black Lapis, under the right circumstances, is blacker than anything I've ever seen. Oh, there's Morton Bridie again. Bridie still grows some daylilies, but of course rust in the Gulf states is a discouraging factor to a lot of the people. And so she has gone on to win, I think it's called American Horsewoman of the Year or something, riding saddleback horses or some other kind.
She lives in Texas.
She's from Victoria, Texas. Here's Mort's Butterflies Are Free. It's a 7-inch patterned double, or whatever. Well, I never knew Cary Grant, but when I decided to do a Dead Movie Star series, I thought, well, he's dead. Now, on the two flanking photos are both Kurt Hansen. He and I met in Las Vegas and drove through one of those desert national parks, and then we came back through Death Valley, and those were photos of him were made there. And in the middle, you can see him on the left next to me, and then Morton. And that was Grace DeMille when she had her hair the way it was then. It's white now. So there's our friend Curtis Montgomery. He's said to tell everybody hello. He has attended this meeting many times, and they just couldn't do it this year. I think they're up to 11 dachshunds now that live in the house with them, and they're really avid breeders and showers of dachshunds. Just a few personalities. Chris Rogers was Dan Hansen's girlfriend back in the day, and that was when they started their program there of Edges Without Eyes, and of course Dan actually got it all started, and he's developed it and evolved it into something incredible. And we all know and love Dan Bachman in Cincinnati. Oh, there are my first seedlings next to me. That's why, but I figured if I just cut out those few flowers in the black and white photo, you couldn't tell what it was, so that's why I'm in there too. But that was my first patch of daylily seedlings in bloom, and those are examples of some of what I was using. And when I came back on summer break a couple of years later, my seedlings were in bloom, and they were all uglier than those you see there. But anyway, so I went off to college and majored in music. I had a little music trophy that I was proud of. And so many years, even more years later, visited the late Pauline Henry in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and selected that to be named for myself. I wasn't thinking that it was a patterned eye, but in a way you could be considered an early patterned eye on a miniature daylily. Now I can't find that button. There it is. Oh, there's Debbie Butler Maud Beck. We're going to name a daylily after her one of these days, but
is it going to be called Shorty?
That'd be easier because she's already picked out 5 of them to be named for her. And every year she'll say, oh no, I think, well, now maybe, Well, we had a lot of people come see us in Florida, and we were so thrilled when Diana Grenfell, who is a famous hosta book author and gardener in England, who came through, and she chose this to be named for herself. Later on, Mort went to Europe and did daylily programs in Germany, and then later into England, and Diana hosted him there. Okay, now you can say your thing.
All right, your thing. Had a nice visit with Diana Grenfell, and got to see quite a few nice places while I was there, and had a great time.
One double that really pleased me as a seedling was this, and I named it Dutch Yellow Truffle. I thought it might win the Ida Munson Doubles Award, but apparently it's, the Yankees really have to like her stuff these days too. Never mind. There's Elizabeth Salter on the left next to Grace DeMille, and there she is again in the green hat next to John Rice in Kurt Hansen's Printonic Garden up in Gates Mills, Ohio. There's one of Mort's on the left, Elsie Kaiser, selected by a daylily grower in Germany, and Emery Baker, selected by a lady that we call Sparkles of Plenty. She wanted that to be named for her aunt. There's a couple of Mort's earlier ones. Fantasy Finish he used extensively. It's in the background of virtually, I'd say 80% at least of his patterned daylilies, which makes it in the background of probably thousands of patterned daylilies that are currently the rage. Extraterrestrial, Jamie Gossard came through and was excited over it because of a form that we weren't pursuing, but he thought it was pretty special. Oh, there's Fabulous Frida on the left. That's one that people really like. And Great Red Heron also. Those are two of our more contemporary reds. Oh, going back to Florida again. We had a couple visit us in the garden, a tall, gorgeous blonde lady and her tall, handsome husband. And before she left, she had selected this one to be named for herself, Gerda Brooker. That's her stepson, Mal Jr., next to her. And Gerda Brooker was a significant plant for Morton, not just in its own right as a garden specimen in the lower South, where it flourishes and it is spectacular, but it became the parent of such things as Julie Newmar, which Morton named and so forth, and Julie Newmar actually is the parent of the current Stout Medal winner, which is named Wind Up in the Vine. Entwined. Couple of reds from since we moved to Kentucky, and the one on the left is sort of a color changer. The pattern and edges are not all, the colors change throughout the season. We named the one on the left Fortune's Dearest because I thought that it would endure at least historic daylily for the fact that it was one of the early examples of a fancily edged cultivar. Gilded Night is one of its kids. They were bred in Florida. Violet Victory is like many generations down from Fortune's Dearest. Fortune's Dearest is in the background of many of the toothy programs on the market today. Gil Stelter is a wonderful daylily friend and grower in Guelph, Ontario, Canada. And the day I visited there, one of the times, the press was there taking photographs of him because he had selected something from special breeding where he had achieved some seedlings from a sterile species. And that's a photograph of Gil and the plant that he was touted, so proud of, the day I was there. He named it Hancow Legacy, and we were having a garden judge's workshop, I believe, there in his garden also that day. This thing's quit working. Maybe not. No, it's not it.
That's all right. Look at it.
Push the battery.
No, you push the button from the bottom. Wrong button.
I thought I pushed it. Did y'all, any of you ever meet her? I thought I had several times, but it turned out to be somebody else. This I think came in third for that Item Munson Award this past year. A gentleman named Bob Schwartz up in the Hamptons in New York visited us in Florida, so we met him there, and they invited us up, and we spent some summer days in their garden up in New York. And one of the times while there, he said, "Would you like these seeds? They come from Tet Francis Joyner breeding," and he said he was going to abandon his doubles program, but I like that. And Francis Joyner, no one had anything out of the Tet version of it at that time. So thanks to Bob Schwartz, I got a row of seedlings from Francis Joyner, the Tet version, and this is a grandkid, I think, from that. So I always have to give Mr. Unusual Form. Bob Schwartz was the guy who promoted that term for unusually formed daylilies. Quite a giant of a man. Here's Mort's God Save the Queen. Thank you very much. Here are two of Mort's first ones. He was breeding for patterned throats. And the one on the left is from Kentucky breeding, resulting from Heaven's Declaring, which was a Florida-bred daylily. There's Heidi Douglas and her husband Thelma Douglas. Two of our reds. Cardinal Kisses won the maybe Outstanding Clump Award at our regional meeting this past season in Chattanooga. These are two gentlemen that we have we claim as friends. Jamie Dockery is someone who he's Lucas Holman's equivalent, only in Fayette County, Kentucky, which is Lexington. And of course, we all know Jay. We have daylilies named after both of them. If I ever get this program organized, I will be able to have images of the cultivars named after everybody, and they'll be in chronological or some other kind of order. So there are, it's not just the daylilies we come to these things for, is it?
No.
I think not. Shortly after we moved to Kentucky, Larry and Jeannie Rolls came to see us, and helped us unload plants and try to order 12,000 pots of daylilies that had been unloaded and strewn all over the place, and try to get some order. And they were huge help. The next summer, Jeannie and Larry came for a visit, and the daylily on the left was in bloom, and she selected that to be named for her. It's pretty special both as garden value and as a breeder of fancily edged doubles. Jerry Paint Williams was one of our earlier doubles, and I see it now in the box stores, Walmart, and places like that. I bet they make more money off of it than I did. Joan Jackson, prominent member of the Delaware Valley Daylily Society. Now she's in Virginia, which is where her family, I guess the family farm has been in the hands of her family since post-Civil War. And That's her home. You can see it over there on the left, her gorgeous home. And that photograph was made the day of a garden tour when Mort and I were there for a regional. Her namesake I consider to be possibly the finest purple double in existence, certainly the one that I've ever seen. And she's quite something else. She's a chemist and a scientist, now retired. Luke and John Sr. Luke was president of the Daylily Society twice, and his wife Joan was the secretary of the society before we had computers, and I can't imagine how those people were able to spin out labels and things for journals. Ben Adams, John Kennebrew, Clarence Williams, June Williams, Margie Kennebrew, and John Rice. That says to David, the best of the best, Julie Newmar. Of course, she chose one of Mord's to be named for her. We have selected and named a few things for hybridized by other individuals. Marked by Lydia was one of Jack Temple's.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
Oh, it's back. Huh? Thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
You're earning your pay today.
Now you know what you're doing.
So we introduced a few of Jack Temple's early spiders because it made him nervous to have to deal with that, and they became well known and widely grown in the background of most of the spiders that you see today that look like the one on the left. And the one in the middle, the two other ones were Dr. Kevin Vaughn, who was a USDA scientist from Amherst, Massachusetts, who they sent to, the USDA sent to practice his profession down in somewhere in Mississippi. Yeah, he was in shock for a while, but he lived through it. He's now in Oregon, happy. Kathy Shanae, Merle Kent's daughter, one of our very best friends who worked and helped me in the office in Florida. But before that, she ran the big tree daylily garden after her father passed away. That was one of the most significant AHS type of daylily businesses in America for a number of years. Rachel Lambertson, wife of Ludlow Lambertson, Kathy Shanae, and there's Ludlow, and there's Kathy's namesake. Katie Snowflake was chosen by Kathleen Nordstrom, and Katie Snowflake is her nickname. Judy Romano, that ruler you can see, I think we registered it at 6.5 inches because we certainly didn't want to be chastised if it didn't get that big. Well, Kate served as the AHS president for 2 terms, was instrumental, along with several of us, in redefining the position of the AHS editor. When we hired Meg Ryan McKenzie, I think that pink double that she chose to bear her name back and forth. How am I doing on time? Does anybody know? About a minute, you said?
It's 9:57, I don't know what time.
I can't see the schedule.
Oh, in 30. You're good to in 30.
Okay. So Kay has won the Helen Field Fisher Award for service to the society, but alas, she has not been awarded the Steve Moldovan Mentoring Award. And the definition of the Mentoring Award is not just for hybridizers, because there are so many of you who may never have ever set a seed on a daylily pod, who have visited daylily gardens and have a good eye and know how to judge and can encourage hybridizers and not just hybridizers, volunteers for the American Hemorrhagic Daylily Society, the ADS, to join in the fellowship and the fun. So Kay was one of those people. She visited every region in the country when she was the president of the AHS, and maybe she'll still live long enough to receive that mentoring award. I just might. Kyle Villadue is the treasurer, as far as I know, still of the AHS, and on her visit with us, chose this daylily of Mort's to bear her name. Lady Wu was named for a fictitious human whose name I made up when I was writing something about doubles. And that's her namesake. Larry Gooden, we had hoped to see here this weekend. He often attends these functions and is quite a supporter of the American Hemorrhagic Society, and he enjoys doing it by attending the auctions and outbidding everybody else. And of course, you've heard of the Shirley Farmer meeting, and I think the last time I ever saw Shirley, I saw she was at the meeting, and I took her photograph. I think that's one I took. Oh, anyone know who?
Pickles.
Lee and Jean Pickles with their beloved Labrador Retriever, and that was Lee's, he called it his Grin House. Lee was the father of this meeting. It's the first one he missed. We lost him last summer. I named, on a visit to our garden in Florida, Lee selected the one on the bottom left to bear his name, Leroy. It took me a while. Leroy, what's he want me to name one that for? His name's Lee. No, well, I got it eventually. Well, I like the one on the right that was growing next to it a lot better, but I couldn't persuade him to name that one Leroy. So after he left and I was doing registrations, I named that other one Leroy's neighbor. So that's Jean Pickles, his widow, in the middle. Lori Morgan is a famous Western country singer here in the Nashville scene. We're not in that, we're down in the Nashville scene, where there is a Music City garden, and part of the plan for the Music City garden is to have roses and daylilies that are named after performers in that genre. And so we were pleased when we were asked if we would name one for her. So that's what they chose. Well, here's a new one and an old one. The Lullaby and Good Night is one of the, I think that was Debbie Monbeck number 3. And it was introduced last year. It's gorgeous color and form. And the one on the right is an old one back from Florida of Mort's named Lunacy. And arguably, especially later in the season when the sepals pinch in such a way as to call it, I think, a cristate, it could have arguably been registered as a UF with a patterned eye. Oh, there it is, with those sepals doing that more noticeably. The one on the red was an early one of my red doubles, which we named Stroke of Midnight. Its parent was converted to a tetraploid. The seedling parent of it was converted to Tet. And on an occasion when Pat Stamilli visited us, I gave him an anther from it. He took it home and produced a seedling that he named Night Embers, which I would have composted. I would have. Okay, there's our friend Mac Reed on the left with Rich Rosen, and more. We selected this. Rich selected that to be named for him, and we introduced it last year. It's rather toothy. This goes back decades. It was what I consider to be one of my best reds in the day, named for Maria Callas. I sometimes enjoy opera, and her voice still just sings to me, at least. There's Mort's sister and her namesake.
That's pretty.
Hey, how about this one?
Yeah.
There it is again. I didn't get all these photographs. There's a whole segment of this program that we couldn't figure out how to make that computer find it. So, never mind. Nellie Rarick Memorial, named for one of the founders of I think it's the West, anyway, in Owensboro, Tennessee, there's a botanical garden. She was one of the founders.
Nellie Rarick throws a lot of different patterns from day to day, it seems like. It's one thing nice about patterns is they can change with the weather and days that they pass.
And Mr. Harold is quite a nice red from last year. Do you know Willie Graham? Most of you. She judges as a show circuit here in Region 10. And after her husband Harold passed, we named this for him. Oh, did I already show you this?
No.
So, I was thinking she was in the one of those AHS high-tone women. This is Pantillis with her namesake. Two of Mort's early patterned daylilies. They both won the patterned award. I think it's who's that in memory of? R.W. Munson, Bill Munson. And I think to this day Mort's won it maybe twice as many times as anyone else.
As we should.
Thank you. Oh, there's Peggy Turman. I didn't have her. I couldn't find a photograph of her flowers, so I thought peppermint kisses would go well with Peggy. Oh, there's Barbara Watts again. Reason for Treason was one of something I thought was very special because it showed a nice watermark on a red. It's in the background of much of my red line, and I gave a piece of this to Carol Emmerich, and I know she used it to get reds, and I don't know if she gives me credit for it, but she should if she doesn't. This was Debbie Butler, Monbeck number 5. But Virginia Walker was there, and she just fell in love with this plant, so that's what it was named. We put it out last year. It sold out almost overnight. 2 old ones. The one on the right, I think, won the N.E.T. Childs Award. Maybe either. It's right on the borderline of being a miniature. I quit doing diploids probably in about early 80s, sometime in the 80s. 2 more of Mort's. It's Rune Mark, actually.
Oh, I see. Right.
You know, a lady up here, actually in Louisville, she was wild. And I guess you were a house guest of hers. She and her husband were science fiction writers, and she was crazy. And she wrote about this character in one of her books named Mort, who was, I think, the gamekeeper, and wrote rune marks around for the other sci-fi characters to look at. So that's, what is that noise? Oh, I guess these hearing aids don't recognize it as such. Y'all remember Ruth Bussey? Well, she's quite a nice lady, and sounds just like a normal person on the telephone. Yeah, she lives she's happily married to some Texas ranch millionaire in their 5-story home with everything you can imagine, from Rolls Royces and Bentleys down in the garage and stuff like that. But that's her namesake. That's what she chose. She told me she really likes to arrange silk flowers. That's her preference.
We had a friend named Gwendol, I was a pianist at the time, who lived very near her, and that's how we got permission to name her.
Well, they're good friends. Gwendol asked us to do that. Well, I thought this would be good to show with Sandy, because she and I made a road trip or two until she, I think, banished me from her car.
Until you almost got me arrested at the Canadian border.
It was because Sandy was looking so guilty.
We didn't have Mike with us to save the day.
That's right. Here are a couple of my older Florida daylilies. The one on the left was a diploid. Oops.
Interestingly enough, on Snicklefritz, although David didn't mention it, it didn't do that well in Florida because it was so low all the time. But
Because it was a dormant.
but when it went to, where did it go?
I gave it to a lady in Denver who used to drive me crazy. Can you send me something I need to nurture here in the Denver winter?
And it multiplied well and made it.
So she boarded a bed with it at the Denver convention. People were going wild over it. So she named it that, Schnickelfritz. Signature Truffle was a real break in our breeding program for fancy edges on doubles, and it's quite hardy and grows well throughout, reaching 10. Now, I don't know how come that photograph of my sister is on that page. The flower is sparkleberry truffle. We introduced it last year. It's about somewhere around 6 to 7 inches. And that was Debbie Monbeck number. I can't.
7, 3.5.
Oh, there's the one I named for my sister. Roy Woodhall on the left, still Steve Moldovan on the right, 2 giants in the daylily world. Steve mentored so many hybridizers and welcomed them to his garden, and dispense advice freely, and he didn't make it the facts. I named this one Swords into Plowshares. Yeah, that's Rich and Anna Marie Pavlik. That's his wife's name. Anna Marie Pavlik. That's K-Day on the right. Kay flew in for a party that was being given for Morton and me. And so that was how we all happened to be together and get some photos made. Debbie Monbeck was there as a guest with her camera. Shortly after we moved to Kentucky, we knew that we needed a landscape architect and a lot of help. And John Rice recommended that Mac Reed be someone we should speak with. And so Mac Reed and his wife, Tay Green Reed, became two of our best friends. And that's his wife, Tay, there on the left. They're both landscape architects. There she is with her namesake. And to this day, I am as proud of what this double represents in my breeding program as anything I've ever done. It's not that old, and I encourage people to grow it if you like fancy doubles in that color. Okay, now there's Mac Reed and Tay, and we call her Tay, but her namesake is Tay Green because it sounds so.
And they're both good artists. Mac works with watercolors and Tay's in an oil painting class that she got me into for landscape, so I get to see her fairly often. She is also in a Tai Chi class with me. So.
I don't know what happened to the labels. I actually had the names on all these. This is Double Glamour, about 2, maybe 3 years old. It excites me still. Great branching bud count, good plant, hardy. That's Truffles Orange on the left, and on the right is Truffalicious, which is an older double from Florida, in the background of just slews and thousands of seedlings, because I used it that heavily. It itself is not is a little on the tender side, but its kids and grandkids and great grandkids are increasingly more hardy. Well, we're this is probably the last slide. The one on the right shows you Dr. Virginia Peck, one of the giants of daylily hybridizing, as well as, let me finish the sentence. But now I forgot what I was going to tell you. Well, Virginia mentored just so many of us, and helped. She did independent research after a previous AHS president, her husband, had passed on. He was just crazy about daylily. She was too, but she always took a back seat to him, and then he passed. And Virginia independently developed a scientific program which was recognized by the international, I think it was maybe Royal Horticultural Society, for her work in clonal conversion from diploids to tetraploids. She was one of the first. And she was on a cruise somewhere in Europe and ran into Jay and Peggy Turman, and she got them interested in daylilies, which begat the Middle Tennessee Daylily Society, of which Jay is a charter member, and now and my goodness, Sandra Merritt, and just all these fabulous people have come to Daylilies. Maybe just because they were on the boat with Virginia. What?
One thing most people don't know is that the last few years that she put up Daylilies, Van Sellers introduced them for her, and all the money went to the college that she went to and went to help put on a wing which was named after her.
Right. We believe that she donated more than $1 million to the middle class. To what is the name of this?
MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University, they call it Tech Hall.
That call. Yeah, she was awesome.
She was Region 10. She was Region 10.
Yeah, she was Region 10, lived in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, in a modest but really just comfortable, warm, wonderful home. She would freeze good things, and when you came to visit, she'd pull them out, and then in the evening she'd pull out a jug of wine, and we'd sit and watch the sun go down.
She took care of her own garden and mowed it and did a lot of things. It was interesting. I was fortunate to be able to visit her for a week.
I was too. So the one on the left I named a Universal Soldier back in 2002. It was the cover of our catalog. It was sort of trying to, it was our patriotic themed catalog the year after 9/11. Let's see what's left here. Another friend through Daylilies was Luther Travis, and we named the Daylily on the left Vino de Travis. He said it grows well for him in Pennsylvania. Others, Virginia again, different photograph. And Lusty Leland, the red, in the background of red daylilies, truly red daylilies, not ones that came from pink and purple, but in the background of real red daylilies. That was one of her prides and joys. Virginia Little Henson, a Helen Field Fisher Award recipient, and her namesake. Her husband was a good friend of my father's, and he was in the bulb business, and whenever he would be on a trip to or from Holland and was going through Orlando, he would come and see us, and so I knew him back before I was even in high school. Okay, that's all of those. Thank you. There may be